What's going on, everyone? It's quite a beautiful August evening here at the homestead, and we're out here with the fur family. And as you could see from the opening clip, Chickpea is back on a harness. So about a week and a half ago, dogs were running around in the backyard here, and Chickpea just came over to me and wasn't waiting her right hind leg. And I thought, oh, that's weird, but maybe she just sprained it or something, or sensitive. And within about an hour after that, she wouldn't even put weight on it or touch her foot to the floor. And at first I thought, oh my goodness, is this an FCE?
That's what you said. You walked in and you're like, it's another FCE.
So, I mean, if you saw the video I did last year, right around this time.
Exactly right around this time.
It was Labor Day weekend. Chickpea suffered an FCE, a fibrocartilaginous embolism. I won't get into that, but I made a whole video series on that.
Just call it a spinal stroke.
Yeah, and thankfully actually a few people have reached out after seeing the video series that I made and thanked me because I put out a lot of information about what I went through with Chickpea. And we've had a whole year where she's just been basically back to herself, running, playing, everything's been fine.
She has had a permanent limp, which you refuse to accept.
I've just never seen it. So sadly, my worst fear actually for a leg injury, it's her cruciate ligament. So she has torn her cruciate in her right hind knee, I guess.
You should probably use some layman's terms. ACL.
It's not an ACL though, ACL is in a human.
I know it's in a human, but when I watched the video you shared, it said the human version is the ACL.
Yes, but this is a CCL in a
CCL.
dog. So essentially now the knee has no stability to it. She can weight her leg a little bit. She is on painkillers. And unfortunately, the only really viable solution for larger dogs is surgery. And there were a couple of surgery options where they basically try and put a new synthetic tendon in. But with the way that Chickpea runs and plays and how powerful she is, it's doubtful that that would really hold for very long. At the very lowest price range, you can just get an injection into the knee that will help stabilize the knee, but it's certainly not a permanent solution. The real solution is TPLO. Basically what they do is they go in and they cut the top of the tibia to an angle where the femur and the tibia meet and there's no forward thrust anymore. And they don't need to rebuild the cruciate ligament at that point. They just actually redesign the leg. They put a titanium plate in there and they put it back together so the dog has stability in the knee. It's also, unfortunately for us, the most expensive of all of the possible treatments. And I've had a number of clients go through this and I've heard some pretty extreme price ranges, so I kind of thought the worst when this happened. The very last video I posted was talking about how much you've got to dedicate to your dogs. Hey, lay down, pal. Down. Good boy. And I talked about how much time it takes and patience, but I also talked about the finances and how a lot of people might not be ready, or if something catastrophic happens, they may not have the funds. Over the last year, within the last, I'd say 18 months, Ollie became critically ill and cost us thousands of dollars, but he's our little dude, so we got to do it. Penny just finished cancer treatment for a lesion on her hip. We had 3 dental surgeries last year.
For the dogs.
Yes, of course, for the dogs.
Not for us.
And then the FCE and all of the rehab for Chickpea. And I think last year we spent close to about $16,000, $17,000 on the dogs. That's a tough pill to swallow for sure. And we're just at the end of our financial savings right now. We just can't do this. Thankfully, and as embarrassing as this is to admit, as a 50-year-old guy that has a job and is married and has a house, we we don't have the money. We've been quoted it's going to be around $7,000 for the surgery, the blood work, the x-rays, all of that sort of stuff. And thankfully my parents absolutely love Chickpea, and they're going to help pay for the surgery because there's no possible way we could do it. And it hurts to admit that, but one thing I've always tried to do in these videos is be honest in my opinions, in my advice, and whenever I show you something from my life when we travel, how we have the van set up, what happened with Chickpea last year, I always try and be honest because I feel that's sort of my duty as a dog trainer. Is I'm really trying to show you, I'm trying to be the best dog owner I can. I'm trying to represent that. And it takes a lot to care for dogs. And if you have a bad year where your dog gets really ill or has a serious injury.
And you have multiple dogs, unfortunately.
Multiple dogs, right? It's going to be very difficult. And this, unfortunately, was just a little past our financial wherewithal at this point. So thankfully, thank you to my parents for stepping in to help us out. And that's partly why I wanted to make the video, was to just be honest and explain nobody's endless with money. And I don't even want to think about what Chickpea's life would be like if we couldn't afford this surgery. She'd essentially be lame the rest of her life. She would never run. She would probably have to be on a leash the rest of her life. And that's no life for a dog. That's no life for anything. So it's our duty.
Chickpea's 8.
Yeah.
So she's got a good chunk of years left. It didn't make sense to not do it.
You know, at the end, the dogs didn't choose us. We chose to have dogs, right? It was our choice to have pets. It was our choice to adopt these dogs. And we all do that for our own personal reasons, but I think generally speaking, it's for companionship and because a lot of us have a drive to care for something. And we don't have kids. This is our family. But these dogs didn't ask to be owned by us. We chose to own them. And I think everyone really needs to think about the onus that's on you as the owner. That is your job. You have committed to taking care of these animals to the best of your ability. And thankfully, my parents have stepped in to help us because we just didn't have the ability right now. But I always share this too because I want you to see what can happen. I know I have lots of clients that have multiple dogs, and I often wonder how they afford it, just like how we afford it sometimes.
And some of it has to do with luck. Let's be honest. Some people
Yep.
have dogs that I had a dog most of my life, and I never had these kind of problems ever.
Yeah, I mean it's just multiplied, right? If having a dog, if there's a 30% chance that your dog could get sick or injured, and you have 3 dogs, the percentage, like the chances, it's just going up. It's just more likely that you'll end up with some sort of issue. This time I decided to make the video. It's been about 10 days since this all happened. I wanted some of the emotion to wear off. When I did the video about the FCE, I basically made the video within hours. My eyes were still puffy from crying. I was really upset by that because at that point we really didn't know what had happened to Chickpea. And I really just wanted to make this video once I had calmed down so I could be a little bit more methodical about it and talk a little more rationally about it after everything was said and done. For now, I just have to make sure that she's careful when she walks. I can walk her short amounts. We've had to cut back on her food because we want her as lean as possible when she's recovering from her surgery.
Plus, she's not exercising anymore.
Right, right. And I had mentioned that in a previous video I did, that if your dog is injured or their exercise levels dropping, you've got to drop their calorie intake as well, or they're going to become overweight. And certainly recovering from a knee issue, you would think that the lighter the dog, the better. We've got about 2 weeks until the surgery, and then I'm going to do the same thing I did with the FCE. I'm just going to cover the basics of the surgery and the recovery so that if somebody else has this happen to them, they'll have an idea of the cost, they'll have an idea of what they're facing and how long their dog's going to take to bounce back. But prognosis is good. We went in for x-rays today to confirm that she can go ahead with the surgery, and they said the knee still looks good, there's no damage, so we're in good shape and she should recover fully. So in about 2-3 weeks I'll start to post some videos about the surgery and her recovery, and then hopefully, just like the FCE video, hopefully this helps somebody else out there if it happens to your dog. All right, we'll see you in a couple of weeks.